So hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at some of the other videos and see a little bit more what the climate web can do. What this video is about is what can you do with the climate web and how can we help you advance your communications and other objectives with the climate web. Now, to help put this in some perspective, I've included a quote here from a client that we worked with, Fortune 100 company, and it's a great quote in terms of really encapsulating what we're trying to do with the climate web and how it can be really useful in a wide variety of advisory, consulting, and communications contexts. Now, because this video does go on for a few minutes, because we're covering quite a few different ways that you can use the climate web, here I've listed the where each item is on the timeline, so that if you want to look at something specific, you know exactly where to go. I'm not going to focus on it too much, but obviously one of the ways you can use the climate web is to do it yourself. The vast majority of information in the climate web is publicly accessible to anyone who wants to go in and find it. And so you can explore it to your heart's content. Perhaps the most widespread use of the climate web is in using it to help get you actionable knowledge for briefings or presentations that you might be doing or that colleagues might be doing internal to the company. Now, we can also come in and deliver briefings, workshops, and training, and it's a lot of the same material, which is why I'm dealing with them both here in the same slide. To give you one example of how this works is this particular slide I was using in a presentation to senior decision makers at a large company. And when they saw this slide, they suddenly said, "Now I get it. Now I understand why climate change is a risk that we need to be thinking about and we need to be tracking." And we have thousands of those kinds of graphics, all kinds of information in the climate web that can be made available for that purpose, for briefings, for trainings. And in fact, in this screenshot here, I'm showing you the briefings that are already in the climate web that we've delivered with the climate web and that can be modified for your purposes. You can deliver the briefings. We can deliver the briefings. There's a lot of flexibility with this tool. Now, this next screenshot is workshops that we can deliver through the climate web. We have a one-day scenario planning workshop already built into the climate web and lots of other similar kinds of material. So all kinds of opportunities for delivering internal information needs. My next example is dashboards. We have huge amounts of information in the climate web. How do you organize that information so that it is useful to a specific question, a specific need, a specific audience? That's what we use dashboards for. And we have examples here of 3 of the dashboards that we've already put together. Here we have a good news dashboard, a place where we've organized lots of different examples of how progress is being made on the climate change topic, where we summarize that progress for specific issues and where we then link news stories, etc., if somebody wants to dig deeper. Now, the next is a sea level rise dashboard, where we summarize the key aspects of the sea level rise issue. We link stories, etc., if you want to dig deeper. Last is our business risk dashboard, which is a really interesting dashboard looking at 30 different risk variables that we're tracking on an ongoing basis, providing a summary of the topic, providing an assessment of current and potential materiality, making it possible for decision makers to track the entire issue of business climate risk on just one screen, which makes it a really remarkable tool. There's really no limit to the number and types of dashboards we can build with the climate web, specifically for investors, specifically for the electric utility sector. The list goes on and on. Now, here is something we can do with the climate web that has huge potential in terms of being branded by individual companies and just flexibility. And what we call it is climate spotlights. And what that means is that the climate web can be embedded onto a web page and point only at that specific collection of information or topic that we want to point it at. So to give you a couple of examples here, here's an example where you might have the climate web in the classroom, and this view would be on your web page, and this is all the visitors to the web page would see. Another example, here's the sea level rise dashboard that I showed you earlier. That dashboard can be embedded onto a web page. You can add all sorts of text, discussion, basically make it much more conventional for people as opposed to just taking them into the climate web. Another example showing that these spotlights can be different sizes. They can be full screen, half screen. You can embed text. You can put in links into the spotlights. So a lot of possibilities here in terms of customizing an information collection, a message, putting it on your website, and taking advantage of the flexibility of the climate web for that kind of application. Other ways to use the huge amount of information that's collected and organized in the climate web is for risk and materiality assessment and for scenario planning. We've actually developed a rapid materiality assessment tool for climate risk that we've used with companies that draws on a lot of the information in the climate web. And we've worked on climate risk scenario planning with companies. And most companies really are not addressing the wide range of potential scenarios, not only in terms of climate change itself, but in terms of climate policy and all of the different direct, indirect, second order, third order, fourth order effects and impacts that we're potentially talking about when it comes to climate change. Now, as you can see here under our climate risk scenarios in the deep dive, we bound all sorts of variables relevant to risk scenarios. And we've organized hundreds of documents there, which gives us a huge amount of material to work with. We've also identified a large number of potential scenario variables that we use with different companies depending on their needs and their priorities. And last, this quote, which I showed you at the beginning, but this quote actually stems from a climate risk scenario project we did with a Fortune 100 company, where using the climate web, it was as if we had 100 experts around the table in all aspects of climate risk and corporate strategy, etc. And they just found that very, very valuable. The last example I'll give here is the idea of exporting climate knowledge solutions. Now, with the climate web, we've built a massive knowledge base. But perhaps you have a particular interest in the investing in climate change or in some subset of the investing and climate change information, and you would like to get that information to seed and build your own knowledge system using the Brain software, which is a very powerful knowledge management software. We can actually export, we can gather together exactly what would be most useful to you, export it, and you can start building your own knowledge management system. We can support that over the web, or it can be purely your own project. So again, a lot of flexibility here. So one of the most difficult aspects of the climate change issue is just its sheer breadth. It involves so many different things, different sectors, different disciplines, and that makes it really tough to get your head around. But with the climate web, we can help you do that in a fit-for-purpose way that suits your needs. When we'd be happy to discuss that further, here's our contact information, and I look forward to talking to you.